YouTube, Brian Phillips coming with something you've been waiting for a long time. The Valiant 1.3 meter. This plane looks to be amazing. I've heard tons of good things about it. We're gonna fly it on the NX6. We're gonna start with the 2200 3S and we're gonna go up to a 4000 3S and see how it does with the heavier pack. But for now, we've got a little bit of light breeze coming down the runway toward my plane. Obviously, you notice the berms on the sides, so that will be an impact, and it's a little bit chilly. So me and the camera crew are gonna get in position and go for it right now. Takeoff flaps deployed. Oh yeah, she gets off the ground quick. Out of the flaps altogether. Beautiful looking plane. About 50% throttle. 3S, near unlimited vertical. Obviously this comes with Safe Select and AS3X. Very good acrobatic capabilities here. Oh yeah, she does it all. Full landing flap deployment. Okay, so we'll just ride the wind a little bit here. Beautiful. A little bit of up elevator pressure. Just kind of going into the wind like slope soaring here. High speed pass. We'll try and approach, kind of steep one. I probably could have put it down if I pushed it. I'd like to see a little bit more deflection on those flaps. Hey camera crew, let's come back in the middle. It's got a lot of power on 3S. This thing would be like crazy on 4S. So I was wondering about that during the build. The middle, hun. Thank you. We'll do a little cornhole there. Loving the way it looks. The blue is usually kind of not my favorite because it'll disappear into certain sky colors. And I'm just realizing I have a little bit of a trim issue on my elevator. Okay, there we go. Now I'm level. Okay, here we go. Man, look at that thing. Beautiful knife edges with the best of them. Real slowish pass. It definitely likes to fly with or without flaps. It's definitely not non-responsive. In fact, I could probably use just a touch more expo, to be honest. I'm in my middle setting. I love that you can fling it around like that and not have problems. We are not calm, by the way, folks. There is a pretty good amount of wind, but it's running down the runway, so I like it. When wind is laminar and nice and straight and predictable, you can use it to your advantage. Oh yeah, that's cool. You can just about hammerhead with the thing. It does not feel good, the wind. That is for sure.
The gray is screwing with me.
Uh-oh. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, full landing flaps here. As you can see, even in the wind, no problem to get down the runway on the mains. None whatsoever. Around the trees here, we'll kind of go through that void there where the bridge is. And then right inside of us here, take off flaps. Beautiful, look at that thing. Slow flight characteristics will be more fun to explore on a calm day because I feel like this thing's gonna just get blasted by the wind. Okay, we're gonna go down the runway here, nice smooth pass. This plane will definitely be earning a second thoughts video. But when we're done flying on the 2200 3S, we're gonna go to the 4S. Excuse me, we're gonna go to the 4000 3S. Excuse me, folks. This thing does not need a 4S, are you kidding? A little extra deflection in those flaps, I think it'd be perfect. And I think we can get that too. We might actually just set that up. Nice and nimble, light on its feet. I feel like it actually could use a little extra weight just to calm it down. With the wind, you'll notice it's way faster. Against the wind. Oh, that was my timer. Probably would have been good to not take back off. Okay, full landing flaps here. Using the rudder and ailerons to cross control. Need a little bit more room. I'm gonna tractor the prop this time. That means, well, we don't actually have braking on, so it's already gonna tractor on its own, but I'll give it about 10% throttle here and just run it in for a nice landing. Beautiful. A little bit of down pressure on the stick just for beauty, and then around she goes. Of course, we can't quite swing the wings only because of the berms on the side with the snowstorm we had the other day. So we're gonna pause, we'll get inside, we'll warm up a little bit, and then put in the 4000. We'll show you what the voltages were when we get in there. Okay, so we got the XBC 100 smart checker, and we are gonna plug this in here. And it looks like we're at about 54%, 3.8. That's perfect storage voltage. So on 2200 3S, we definitely got to the timer, which was 5 minutes, and we went a full minute over. We tested at 8 minutes and 17 seconds if it matters to you, but there's virtually no draw on this thing when it's just plugged into a nothing. So that being said, what I want to do is, obviously I'm going to pull this pack out, and we were riding that all the way to the front. I did end up putting a little bit of trim in there, minus 32, to kind of get the thing to level out and fly straight. Sometimes when you do your trim in the wind, you're gonna get a little bit of error in there because you're gonna try to trim out some of the wind effect. So just keep that in mind. We didn't even show safe, so we'll try to show safe in the next clip. So obviously this is 2200, and then this is a 4000. So we're gonna see if that fits. Just look how much bigger that is. It's about the same width, of course, because it's still 3 cells, and these smart packs are just really smooth and really flat. So that's really good. The other thing I want to do is I want to increase the flap deflection just a little bit, and we'll see if we can do that by adjusting either coming out to this last hole and coming out to that hole, or going down. Actually, we'll go down a little bit, and that should pull the flap down some more. And in order to handle a little bit heavier pack, we're going to try that. I've seen some guys have done curl on this plane, and I can understand why you might want to do that when you start doing crazy maneuvering. But basically, Crow is going to put the ailerons up and the flaps down, and it makes this like flaperons on the outside and then flaps on the inside, and they work in tandem, and you basically have a huge air brake. Spoil the lift on the wingtips, and then reduce the stall speed on the inside. It's a cool effect. It's fun to do, but it's probably not necessary on this plane because you can see I could land it in a pretty tight spot still. Just trying to figure out which direction I can get this to work. This is the crappier style of straps that E-flite uses. They're a lighter duty, and they will rip if you pull real hard on them, so you got to be real careful how you handle them. Okay. I'm just trying to see if that'll reach. This lead is a little bit short to reach from that angle, so we may have to go this other way. Or you can take the ESC wire and feed it through a different spot. Sometimes that helps underneath the battery trays. I think I'm just gonna go forward like this. That should get us into a position where we can get that to work. And again, this is just gonna be a heavier pack. I wanna see how it flies in the heavier wind conditions, if it's gonna like flying with a heavier pack. It's also gonna probably tend to be slightly more tail heavy because the leads, see what I'm talking about, how easy that was? It's not a big deal because you don't have to feed them through the middle like that. You can just pull out the excess, lay it flat on the pack, and just lay it down, and it will stick. And then if you have a tail like this, just give it a flip and then stick it back down onto itself, and then that'll hold that out of your way. These doors are not really designed to hold the batteries in, so don't just depend on the door. You will get burned if you do that. Not literally, but figuratively, you'll get burned.
Yeah.
So, Okay, so then we'll flip this around. And you see how I just take that tail and I make a flat spot out of it? Works really nice. So this battery in principle is not tight, but it's tight enough to keep it from moving around where we don't want it to move. Okay, so we'll just leave that the way it is. And then let's address the flaps. So throttle cuts on. As you guys may know from watching any of my videos, I'm kind of big on flaps. I really enjoy the expanded flight envelope that it provides. So I'm gonna slide this thing back. We'll probably show you one side and then we'll just do the other side too. So now this thing, this little clevis has to pop out. And then if you go all the way to the bottom hole, look how much more deflection you're gonna get. Looks like we could go even more. So I'm gonna undo that and then I'll actually move it to the top hole. Now there is a limit to how much torque this servo is designed to produce. Okay, so we'll just go to the top hole, which is gonna make the maximum movement out. And then we'll go to the bottom hole, which is gonna make the maximum movement in like this, okay? Show them side to side. I'll actually measure. I never measure this stuff, guys, but I just wanna measure it so I can give you a representation of how much more deflection we're gonna see there. So I'll use my world's crappiest calipers here. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure with this stick thing. That'll give us a measurement too. And I'll go from the tip, and then I gotta reach out in front of the camera probably. From the tip down. Okay, so we're at, looks like, what is that, 23 millimeters?
Okay.
And then this side, the deflection is, or probably more like 25 or 26. It looks like we went all the way up to about 28. So that's a significant improvement.
Big difference.
So did I say 23 to 28? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's like another 20%. That's a lot more. So we're gonna try that on the other side. Well, it was so quick, let's just do it on both sides. Obviously we have to slide that little gas tube back. And to be honest, you could probably get more if you put a longer control horn on here. This will mean that we probably need to fiddle with our elevator to flap mix. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Oops, almost forgot. Do not get asymmetry in your flaps. You gotta make sure you do what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Otherwise your plane will roll when you deploy flaps. And that's a pretty scary thing, especially if you're a newer pilot. If you're a newer pilot, you don't need to do all these mods. Just get used to flying them and then play with it later. Okay, so now that that's done, that's pushed and moved a bunch, so it will go back to its correct position. Let's verify throttle cut status. Throttle cut is on, timer's cleared. Obviously, we're gonna be able to get a longer flight on this pack, so we'll, on the 4000 milliamp 3S, so we'll bring our alarm out with us, or voltage tester. All right, so now that we have that, this is gonna be a little bit harder to plug in because it's tight. And we'll slip that down in there. Okay, my tape has made a really nice improvement if you ask me. Okay, we'll just put the plane stand out of the way for now and let that initiate. Watch for the double dance. There's one, there's two. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at our flap to elevator correction. Nope, other side. So the flap to elevator correction, look at those flaps, guys. See how much more they are down? Okay, see they went above? They went above center now. Mm-hmm. Okay. So really we could actually get even more. I didn't think they were gonna go above center like that. The way you would correct that if you want the maximum impact would be to use the clevises. So I guess we'll get the plane stand out, sorry guys. The plane stand just makes it super easy on this plane because of the size and the shape. Mm-hmm. These plane stands, you don't need one, but it does make it a lot easier when you're screwing with planes a lot. Because then you can kind of be at the right height. It's just a lot more comfortable. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and pull this out. And so this time we're energized so we can see. So I gotta run this in. 1, full turn, 2 full turns. There's 3 full turns. Let's see if that's enough. And let's just guess and check until you get it right. Okay. Oh, it looks like maybe another half. What do you think? That's pretty close.
It's pretty close.
Okay, so we'll go, whoops. There's 1 more turn. Let's see if that looks right. That looks pretty good. So that was 4 full turns?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so now we'll slide that collar back out. Now, you have to do it to both sides. This reminds me of something a math teacher used to tell me. What you do to one side, you got to do to both sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's right, or did I go 1 less? That would be when dealing with fractional math.
I think I missed that day in math.
Yeah, I think you did too. My wonderful camera crew is not big on math.
I miss most of the days in math.
There's 1/2. There we go. Okay, good. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That looks good. Actually, we're down. We got to go 1 back.
A little bit more.
We got to go back half. So back out 1/2, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so slide that all the way out and just give room for clearance. Clearance, clearance. Ah, dang it.
What?
Not even enough. I gotta go more. I went too far. Let's see if that's right. I'm feeling the top of the wing surface here, guys. I'm using my index finger to feel if that's level, okay? And it is. Now we're level. Okay, so let's try the flaps real quick. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Awesome. Hear that noise? Mm-hmm. We're not really binding anything, it's just the position it's in. Okay, so now, looking at the flap system, we were at 3 before. Let's go to 5, and we were at 5. Let's go to 8. And that might not be enough, because, well, yeah, that's probably about right, actually, if I just think about the math, because we added about 40% more. So that's probably actually a little bit too much, but we'll find out real quick. So now that being said, this battery is quite a bit heavier. This 4003S. 4003S compared to a 2200. Let's just put them on the scale quick. So we'll turn this on, we'll go into grams. So that's 178 grams.
Which one's that?
That's the 2200
Okay.
3S. And this one's the, so
Wow.
that's, yeah, 287 compared to 178. So 178 times 2 would be like 360. So this, yeah, so that's, it's ironically proportionally about the extra amount that we added to flap deflection, but that won't necessarily be a linear change between this and this, or between this and this. So this is what we're flying it on. We just have a few of them. So let's go ahead and get reset. We'll come right back outside. Okay, so the CG, I didn't show this. It's between the 2 marks, we're totally fine with the 4000. So what that means is we're gonna get similar flight characteristics as we did before with just a little bit of nose down. The only difference is it's going to be a lot heavier plane, or not a lot heavier, but a little heavier plane. So we'll see how this does.
Okay.
All right, guys, takeoff flaps, landing flaps, takeoff flaps deployed. Whoa, gets up quick. Out of the flaps altogether, if I didn't mention it. I'm liking the way it feels. I like the way it feels a little better now. Okay, full landing flaps. Looking for balloon, and yes, we do have balloon. Oh yeah, lots better on the speed. Okay, out of the flaps. Takes a little longer to recover the speed. Little cornball. Okay, full speed pass there. I'm really liking the way this plane flies. it just does everything you want it to do, and then more. And then safe. I have safe on, using rudder, limited bank angles, no throttle. Okay, we'll give it some throttle here. We'll do a little bit of safe flying here. Got to hold those sticks all the way over to get it to the limits, and then that elevator keeps you level. You see that? Isn't that cool? Okay, so let's come in here and see if we can do a landing with safe. Okay, so I'm coming in. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Having to really push the nose down. Out of safe, out of flaps. Guys, it's a lot different flying with safe. Let's just put it that way. Okay, full landing flaps, going downhill, avoiding power lines. Man, that thing settles down so nicely. Boy, it looks good.
It's got a good flight envelope to it.
Yes, it does. Just really, really wide. Gorgeous up against those trees, isn't it? And it is not calm, guys.
No.
We are getting wind in our face, and it feels horrible.
Yes.
Let's do a with the wind landing. Okay, so throttle cut is on. Flaps are pulling back. I'm gonna reset this, and then I wanna do one thing. Let's just get that water out of the motor. Okay, throttle cut's on. I wanna do just a hair more. I didn't really mean to do that, guys.
Got some snow in your pants.
Do I?
No,
Oh.
your plane.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna click and go down to flap setup or flap system. And we're gonna go 10, 11, and we'll do 6. Now let's do 6 and 12. Okay.
Just a little bit.
All right, sorry guys. Okay, takeoff flaps. Gorgeous takeoff. Out of the flaps altogether. Little inside loop here. Just to show it can be done. She'll move quick. Full landing flaps. Looking for balloon. Just a hair more balloon. So gosh, we could go up to like 13, 14%. That is just amazing amounts of power on a 3S. Normally on 3S, you're not going to get that unlimited vertical feel. But you do on this thing. And then the upside down flight performance is just flawless. Love the visibility on this plane. You can definitely tell what direction you're going. Love the leading edge being that blue color. I know I said I wasn't big on blue. I don't actually mind the blue at all. It's just a little bit harder to see sometimes. But that blue and white scheme just looks great up against the trees in the winter like this. Beautiful look. I like it when they look like a real general aviation plane. And they knife edge real nice. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a low shot here. Starting to get a little fog here, it almost feels like. Takeoff flaps here, landing flaps. Oh, that was awesome. Didn't even get here. We got our 5-minute timer coming up here. 5 minutes, of course, is not going to use up this pack, even on a cold day. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps deployed. Got to fly to get here. Come on, get here, get here, get here. Gotta love it. Okay, so let's try some stall here real quick. We'll just line up with this line here if it'll stop for us. Good enough. Okay, so it took about, what is that, like an 8-foot chunk there?
Yeah, probably.
10-foot chunk? This plane does like to move with air over its control surfaces. If you arrest your throttle, watch this. The stall turns really, really lackadaisical, but it'll do it. Having to watch for those berms with the snow there. Take off flaps. Full landing flaps here. Just loving the way this thing flies. Not sure the order of release, so I can't say what I want to say, but compared to another plane that we reviewed recently that's an early release, this thing flies very good, and they both fly very good. But you know what? I just love having flaps, folks. It's so much more fun because you can do more cool things with it. Going downhill and slowing down. Love it. Deployed the flaps about 30% down that slope there. Behind us. And then let's land in this short. Almost got it. Okay, throttle cuts on. Oh, as you guys can tell from the snow, it's cold out here. And so what I want to do is I want to fly a little bit longer, get closer to where we get a little bit of a hint of issues for power. You good?
Yeah.
I was going to see if we could stick a landing here. Those berms are just not going to be very forgiving, are they? Let's do some bowl flying here. I said I didn't necessarily want to fly in the bowl today, but with this extra weight, boy, it just responds a little bit better. You carry a little bit more inertia so the wind doesn't fight you quite as much. And you get down here, this bowl is bigger than people realize. And this bowl might be disappearing. Oh, it's going to be sad that day that happens. 50% throttle there. Not losing my battery just quite yet. I had somebody the other day asking me to do a snap roll. Or was it a snap roll? Was that what he's asking, Camera
I
Crew?
don't know. I don't see them all the comments.
Beautiful. About 30% throttle there. Just getting it to relax. The wind is coming at our face right now, so basically when I go this direction, it's got extra lift. See that? Beautiful. And it gets through the trees right now, being that they're deciduous and they have no leaves. We get most of the wind through.
And my eyeballs are freezing.
Yes, your eyeballs are bleeding that beautiful salt water. Okay, so we're gonna go out here and take a landing. We're probably okay on power, but I just want to be on the safe side. Camera crew, you good where you were at the beginning, like
Yep.
in the center? Takeoff flaps, landing flaps, just a little bit of balloon still. I think we'll adjust that and then we'll do one or two more approaches. Good ground handling, tight turns. Okay, so 1.3 meters this thing is. Okay, we're gonna go to 15 and we'll go 10. We'll try. That might be a little bit too much. You can tell when it starts pitching down, or basically instead of ballooning, you got an anti-balloon. Oh, love the takeoff. 30%, 40% power. Full landing flaps coming in. Oh, I just love the way it looks. Getting into the throttle pretty hard there. Okay, we'll fly out over here. We'll do a nice long approach. Takeoff flaps coming in. Landing flaps. Just beautiful landing. Look how short we are. That's with the takeoff flaps now. Just love the way this thing flies. I hope we're going to be able to see it good in the video footage, because with this Takeoff flaps, landing flaps, about 30% throttle there, 40% throttle, 50% throttle, 60. I wanted to get here. Oh! Can't end on that. We are running out of juice, finally. That's 100% throttle there. I'm gonna say it didn't seem very zippy when I was giving it throttle on that landing approach. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Throttle cuts on. Okay, so let's get inside. We are 6 minutes 27. So let's just call it 6.5 minutes past 5 would be 11.5 minutes of flight time on the 4000. We'll go inside and check the voltage.
Okay.
All right, folks. Man, that was a cold one.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna pop these leads or these straps off. Sometimes getting batteries in and out is a real pain in the neck. By the way, this thing will do water flights, and I suspect it's gonna be a real pain in the neck to get the batteries in when you have floats on. So, okay, so here's the battery. Everything looks fine, no puffage, of course. Let's plug it into the XBC battery checker. Look at that, perfect storage voltage.
Good.
So that being said, under load, I felt like it was drawn back a little bit at the end, but I didn't feel like it was, you know, on the edge of falling out of the sky. Definitely really like this plane. I would say that if you guys are getting into the hobby, this might be just a little bit hard to handle, but it's also not so much that it's hard to handle because you can run safe. And if you like running safe, there's no reason a guy couldn't fly this or a girl couldn't fly this. It's a good plane. It's gonna get you a lot of mileage. I feel like this, if you started with this plane, you'd have to kind of be good. You'd have to take to flying radio controlled airplanes quickly. That being said, it's fast and it's slow, but it's a lot slower after we did the changes to the flaps that we did. I like it better with the more flaps. I think that it was a very easy improvement, and you can do it in 5 minutes, and you can have the benefits of slower landings. And you can always just use the takeoff flaps if you don't want as much flap deflection. The other thing you can do is you can make a mix that would actually multiply this effect so that when you deploy your flaps, it deploys at a normal, more conventional setup like what the factory suggested. And then when you flip to another setting, it's even more. So that's one thing I've done in the past. I kind of wish the flap switch that I use, which is switch B, I wish I could get one that was like a 4 position or a 5 position, but I don't want a slider. I want detents. I want to know that it's in this or that setting, particularly for takeoff and landing, because I don't want to have to think about it, but it'd be really cool if I could get some extra settings in there. Also, I have a harder time getting to C and D than I do getting to B. And that's why I use B. And I use A for gear, because it's like I want it in a no-brainer position. Throttle cut's the same thing. I want it in a no-brainer position. I don't have to be looking at the remote or the transmitter to know that I'm hitting C versus D. Or with a more advanced transmitter like the DX18, I want to know what I'm hitting. And it's very easy to trip over these switches. Because like while I'm not looking at the radio, I can tell what they are, but the dexterity you think you're gonna have just standing here, not flying, is gonna be diminished because you're gonna be concentrating out there on the plane and then what's in front of the plane, which is another thing I never talk about. But when you fly, when you're new, you don't think about this, but it's very important. When you fly, you're not looking at the plane all the time. You are looking at the plane when the plane is coming towards you and when the plane is going away from you. But when the plane is flying like this, you're looking ahead of it. So you have to double take. It's just like looking at the instrument clusters in the car. You know, you check them periodically to know how fast you're going, or if you're out of fuel, or if the oil temperature gets too hot, or the water temperature gets too hot, or anything like that. When you're flying a regular airplane, you know, you're not looking at the plane even though you really, really want to look at it because it's beautiful. You're looking ahead of it. You're flying the area. And so that's why some people ask me, well, how do you fly with all this stuff around you? Well, that's just the way I learned to fly. I learned to fly with stuff around me, with foam poles and light poles and power lines and buildings and different things. And that's a skill that you get from practice. And I'm not the best at it and I'm not the worst at it. But the thing is, if you don't ever do it, you're not going to be good at it at all, because you're not going to know how to respond, because you're going to be looking at the plane and focusing on the plane. You have to always kind of look where the plane is going. So if you have a really fast plane, you have to look way out there. And so it's actually, you know, you're doing this, in my experience. If your eyes are better than mine, you might be able to get away from doing that, but mine aren't. That being said, sorry, a little teachable moment there. This plane is great. We have just been loving the NX6. It has been very good. And I can't stress this enough, guys. This is the bottom of the line card, which is another way of saying the cheapest one. And it does virtually everything you need, which is awesome. This is not a 6-channel transmitter, it's 7. That means if you have retracts and you have flaps and you have safe select, you can run them all, okay? If you had a 6, like a DX6, people were getting burned left and right because they couldn't use safe select without sharing it with their retracts or sharing it with their flaps. And I'm like, but I need the flaps independent of the landing gear, and I need the landing gear independent of the safe. And I need, you know, if you really get down to it, I don't want safe on when the flaps are down necessarily. I want safe on when I'm flying all the time if I'm new. And that's what I come to. If you have a DX6, I had somebody ask me this the other day, and I'm gonna just talk about it for 2 seconds here. When you have a DX6 and you're new, just bind it with safe select and don't make an assignment. You don't have to make an assignment. Just leave it on all the time. Get used to it, and then when you're ready, you can make an assignment and just turn it off. Or you can just rebind it with AS3X only. And to be perfectly honest with you, turning it on and off for somebody that's an experienced pilot or a more experienced pilot, sometimes I don't like using that terminology, like experienced versus non-experienced. Experienced, like who defines what's experienced? Well, anyway, I define myself as a slightly more experienced pilot than a new pilot, okay? Because I've been doing this for how many years? Like 6.5 years? 6 years? So that being said, when you turn safe, when you bind with safe select, you do not have to make an assignment. It will just be on, which is kind of nice. And there's never gonna be a time that you're flying along and you're like, oh, sticks down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 while you're flying. That's just, I don't think that would happen in a million years. So, well, maybe in a million years it might happen, but in 100,000 years, you'd have been dead like 1,000 times. Because you're not gonna live that long. But that being said, this plane is a very good plane. It is probably just a little bit more than you want for a first time plane, but it's certainly not undoable. Like if you've been flying a Sport Cub UMX, you know, or you get like one of these little E-Sheen planes and you've been flying these things around and having a good time, and you're flying it in the advanced mode, which would be pretty incredible, because the advanced mode on these things is kind of hard, I think, because they get away from you so quick. But if you kind of know the basic principles, if you've been flying a simulator, you could totally do this plane as your first bigger plane, like 1.2 meter, excuse me, 1.3 meter. And by the way, 1.3 is still very easy to get in a car. It's still very easy to get in the back of an SUV. It's still very easy to get in a truck. But 1.3 is definitely not 1.2. 1.2 is a little bit smaller, you know, so every little bit counts. Keep in mind, this is not a very big wing. It's not very long, or the chord of it is not very long, okay? This is called the chord, okay? But the wingspan, of course, is 1.3. The thing that's nice about a plane like this is it's not that big, in that you can lay it on its back. Even with the dihedral, you don't have a lot of damaging effect from doing that. If you have a really strong dihedral, sometimes it's hard to store them upside down. And what I used to do is I would use bean bags. I would put a bean bag in the back of the Traverse, and I would usually put the first plane down, then I'd throw a bean bag on it, and then I would throw the second plane, and then I would throw another bean bag, and then I would throw a third plane. And these bean bags were deflated from the kids jumping on them a million times. So if you get a brand new bean bag, they're too full. You have to empty them out some, which is not messy at all.
No, not at all.
But anyway, just lots to consider. Awesome plane. Mm-hmm. Went together about as smooth as you can put them together. I don't think we had one problem with it.
Mm-mm. We did not.
Everything went smooth. The worst part of setting this plane up was the email I got from our bank in the middle of it. Oh wait, was that the other plane? I don't know.
That
it had nothing to do with this.
That was this one.
But anyway, this is definitely worth getting. Very fun plane, flies excellently. People have been telling me for years to get the Valiant, and I understand why they were telling me, because it is very good. It's like on par with the Carbon Z Cub. I mean, the Carbon Z Cub is a whole nother thing because it's like twice as big as this. It's a 2.1 meter. And it's a lot more expensive and it flies on 6S. So it's not even really comparison, it's different size class. But the thing is, if there was a Carbon Z Valiant, you know, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Just saying, it'd be awesome. And I would definitely take one. But the thing is, they also have a balsa built up model of a Valiant in the Hangar 9 collection in the giant scale. So I don't know, just a thought. It's possible that someday one of those things might land on this runway. Awesome plane, definitely like it. Definitely check the link in the description below. There'll be a link for this. We'll link to both batteries we chose to use. We'll link to the NX6. We'll link to all the rest of the goodies down below. If you want to look at the chargers, the different things we use, we have a link to chargers under Smart, S-M-A-R-T, Smart, as in smart chargers, smart batteries. There's so many of them that I don't put links to those for every single item because it would take up like the entire description. But I will link to the batteries that we showed in the video on a Maiden. So it'll be a 4000 and a 2200 3S. By the way, if you're thinking to yourself, Brian, I really want to fly it on 4S. Okay, go for it. This thing doesn't need 4S. On 4S, it would be like breaking itself apart. Even if the electronics would handle it, I just think it would be like crazy. Honestly, it'd be just crazy. Because on 3S, I felt like it was kind of crazy. So extremely efficient, good run time. I mean, what more do you want? It's a great plane. Mm-hmm. It's a great second plane if you're really a true beginner.
Yep.
But it's a great plane. And you could do it as a beginner, but you just gotta be on it. You gotta be one of the better pilots, I would say, if you're gonna do this as a first plane. And if you're flying in safe, this thing flies great and safe. You'll have no problems, but you need more room. I have to remind you guys, if you're thinking about buying this and you're still flying on safe, you need room. If you think that's enough room and you're new, it's probably not. You need more like on the back of our lot here where we've got, 5 acres wide open and then you can fly over the top of all the trees. But this area with safe, for an experienced pilot, it's no problem. But for an inexperienced pilot, you just need more room because you're gonna take a mile to land. Also grass. I regret to inform you, I cannot test the grass capabilities, but these pants have been good. They handled the snow perfectly because I obviously nosedived it into the snow a few times. We didn't get any damage at all, which is cool. The wheel pants did great. I didn't see any issues there. Usually the pants are the first thing to come off.
Always.
Yeah. But anyway, I really like it. Good job, Horizon. Definitely get one. Check the link in the description below. Oh, if you want to watch the build, radio setup, all that stuff, it's coming right now. YouTube, it's been so long. I kind of forgot. I forgot what I was doing. What am I doing?
I don't know. We've never done this before.
We gonna unbox this thing?
Sure.
I've had people asking me for years.
Years?
Years. Maybe it was like 13 months to do this plane.
It's just a year.
Year. No, I've actually had people asking me to do this for years.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. You guys have already seen it fly, just like every other plane. We do the same thing here because we're just boring old farts. Look at this awesome thing, the Valiant. I'm excited to bring this review to you because some people are like, hey Brian, will you review this plane? There's nobody's ever reviewed it before. So I'm gonna do it for you.
Nobody?
Nope. Well, that's what they say.
Oh.
This is what these people say.
Nobody as entertaining as us has done.
That's true, of course. No, I want to review this thing because it is just, it's kind of like one of those staple planes. A lot of people that are getting into the hobby that want to know, they want to have a good kind of a second or third plane. They want something that's going to be, good bang for the buck. They want something they can beat up a little bit and really fly it a lot. An everyday flyer. This, I'm told it's very good for that. But I'm going to, of course, make up my own mind, and then you guys can copy me if you want to. And we love doing Horizon hobby products because instead of having, like builds that take 3 or 4 or 5, 6 hours, we might spend 20 minutes putting them together and then 20 minutes setting up the radio system. I'm like, I mean, they turn out nicely. They look beautiful, but it takes many, many, many hours to get to that point. Mm-hmm. I prefer this. This is more on my speed, on my pace, because, you know, I don't want to spend 5 or 6 hours doing a build that's supposed to take an hour. And Horizon does a really nice job with stuff like that.
Yep.
So that being said, without further ado, nice flat package, very, very compact. I'm surprised. This is a 1.3 meter?
Yeah.
How big is this thing? 1.3 meter? This is a sport park flyer for intermediate pilots. I think Horizon likes calling things for intermediate pilots because it's ambiguous. It's like a level 2 from Dynam. Level 2 is somewhere between 1 and 3, except they never really define what 1 is or what 3 is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a wing. That thing's gonna be lifty. Nice looking control surfaces. Obviously this thing comes equipped with AS3X. I do not know if it's safe select or if it's just AS3X. Got an inboard flap and an outboard aileron. Looks really nice. I've seen some guys will set up Crow on this plane. I don't know that I'm interested in doing that so much because those flaps look huge. Does this have safe select? I don't know. We'll find out shortly.
Yeah.
Well, it'll depend on if it has the AR636B. If it has the AR636B, it should be safe select. Let's check. This has an AR636A, so this is one of the earlier revisions. So that does not have safe select, it just has the AS3X, which is fine. Now that being said, if you guys want this thing to have safe, you can put in an AR637T, which would give you safe and AS3X. And the forward programming capabilities on the new NX lineup will make that very easy. Or you can get the AR636B if you can find one, and you can really, really wish you didn't. It's a lot of work, considering that they're not gonna probably be around too long. Okay, we got the awesome Invasion stripes. I think it's still called Invasion stripes, even if it's not on a warbird. I love those things. It makes it super easy to differentiate between the top and the bottom of the wing. Very light, very strong. That's a stripe of paint, not a spar. But it looks like there's a fiberglass spar here, all the way out. Yep, you can kind of see it there. See that? Mm-hmm. There's a spar there, and then there's just an opening here for the wires, and then another smaller spar up here. So Horizon does a really nice job of making a strong wing out of coffee cups. And then of course it receives the chopsticks. These are not very even chopsticks.
No.
That's for the tail feathers, very sturdy. And then of course for the main wing, which I don't, that might not be carbon fiber, that might just be fiberglass, but it's black. Doesn't really matter, it's still gonna be really good. I'm excited for it. Okay, so I keep going through the foam to protect the foam, and I keep running into other items, which I'm excited because I see them here. I just gotta get them out of here. Okay, so we got the tail feathers. Okay, so I just wanna stop and pause and look at this pinch hinge, guys. Okay, look real close. Can you look really close?
What am I looking at?
You're looking at the tape on it. Do you see how there's tape on it?
Yeah, I do.
Can you see the reflectiveness?
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, so there's other brands. They have also got pinch hinge. And they don't reinforce them. And it drives me crazy. That being said, a pinch hinge, meaning that they take and pinch this as part of the manufacturing process, and then it allows it to pivot nicely. This EPO is fine with the pinch hinge most of the time, but over time the pinch hinge will fail. I don't care how nice I make it. If you reinforce it with tape, it will last so long that you'll probably have another failure that causes a crash before that, or you'll crash into a tree before that. This plane, for instance, has a pinch hinge, and it's a much bigger control surface, and it just feels weaker, but it's still okay. Other planes from other manufacturers that have pinch hinges will literally rip off. So Horizon does a good job of that. This is a very thin wing. I like the look of it, but it doesn't feel super robust. I'm surprised by that. And it doesn't look like, obviously we're not gonna be gluing this together. We're gonna be putting it together with bolts the way they should be put together. So that's always handy. Okay, tail feathers, elevator, pinch hinge, look at that. All the way down the length. And look at that. I don't have to apply it, guys. It's just there because they knew it was needed. Okay? So that's very nice. And this has a carbon fiber spar that's on the vertical axis. Goes straight down. I wonder what that other one's for. That's kind of weird. I'm not sure how that works. There was two.
Wing spars?
Oh, maybe there are two wing spars. There are two wing spars. That's pretty incredible. Huh. Okay, so I've heard this is a rock solid plane. Again, like I said, I am excited to put my fingers to the controller on it and find out if it actually flies well. You guys have already seen it. I haven't. So I have to go on assumptions during the build part. Assumptions and what I've heard. Okay, so that's all empty. We've got everything out of there. There's landing gear on this side. Really nice packaging from Horizon. I know the packaging is probably not like the main reason why people buy planes, but since this is an online channel and people are generally following the links to buy these planes so that they can help support our channel, which is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. I want you to know what you're gonna get when you open the package. Look at this. Aluminum. Springy. Looks like it would bend under load. If it bends, you'll be able to bend it back. Wheel pants. Doesn't feel like they're gonna bind, which is good. That's a common problem, by the way. I have, most of the time my pants end up having to come off, so.
It's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. Okay, we have some float adapters here. So that'll give you the attachment points to get to the floats. Now the floats aren't included in the plane, but this plane does have the capability of hooking up to the floats. I believe the same floats that would work for the Carbon Cub 1.3 meter. Okay, so they're a white and they have a blue stripe. In fact, there's a picture on the back of the box. Here they are. Here they are. Right there.
Yep.
So that's an option. You can buy those. Okay. So if you're going to fly off of water, and by the way, you get into the size class, you're going to have plenty of power to break the surface tension on the water when you're flying. Okay. Some of the UMX planes, it was a big struggle to get them off the ground. And when I say the ground, I mean the water. Okay, so we got a nice bolt sack here. Bolts and nut sack. Okay, lots of screws. What the heck is going on with all those? There's like 4 bags of screws. I wonder what all we're screwing together. Oh, you know why that is? Because when we use the floats, there's some extra couplers here that would be used in tandem with that float bag. So we're gonna have to go ahead and sort through those shortly. That's everything in the box, but there should be an instruction manual. Looks like it's on the underside. Is that right? Okay.
It's in this corner up here.
Yep. Okay, cool. Yep. It's right there on the bottom. Horizon used to always put them on the bottom like that, and they kind of got away from that. I'm not sure why they did. I kind of actually liked it when they put them on the bottom because they never folded it. It's never folded when they're on the bottom, and I like that.
Oh no, there's an addendum.
Oh, look at this.
Oh.
For your convenience, the voltage cutoff for the E-flite 30 amp Pro SB brushless ESC has been preset to the 3-cell low voltage cutoff to match up with a 3S LiPo battery included with this plane. No programming change will be necessary. Normal default setting for this ESC is 74% cutoff. They're talking about a low voltage cutoff. I don't know if I like that. That's weird.
There's not a battery that was included though.
What? Did it say that?
Yeah.
Included with this plane. Okay, so I'll take that opportunity to talk to you guys about this. This is called a bind and fly basic. Okay, that's a finish level. Bind and fly basic. Bind and fly meant that you got the plane, a battery, and a charger, but not the transmitter. And so the receiver was included, everything was included with the exception of the actual transmitter. And the battery is required to run the transmitter. When you get a bind and fly basic, which I do the same thing you guys do. I hear bind and fly and I'm like bind and fly, bind and fly, bind and fly. It's all the same, bind and fly. No, it's bind and fly basic, which means you don't get the battery. Back when E-flite was first releasing a lot of these foamies, well, it's actually like 2nd generation foamy releases, to be honest. They were releasing bind and fly, not bind and fly basic. And so now we're hearing like the 3rd or 4th generation of a few of these planes. They only pretty much do bind and fly basic. So when you buy a battery, you end up buying a recommended battery. So that's part of the reason why when we do these videos, we make links in the description below, because people are always asking, you know, like, hey, what pack do I use? What's recommended? And so as you can see, we got lots of batteries over here, and we will show you what battery we're gonna use. We're gonna use what's recommended unless we can't get the desired CG with the provided battery or the recommended battery, and then we'll make adjustments as necessary. So in case you're wondering, we're gonna use smart packs, and the smart packs are a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller than what the original E-flite packs were. So they're a lot better, but they're also a little bit more expensive. So just keep that in mind. But in terms of considerations, we're gonna make sure to tell you that. Looks like the battery tray is gonna be down here, by the way. Okay, that's one way to do it. This does come with an EC5, or excuse me, EC3. Okay, so that'll work with an IC3. IC3 is the same shape, but it just doesn't have the smart pin. So the smart ESCs and the smart technology was not released at the time of this. Oh, and that looks like a 758 for, excuse me. Dang it, I can't quite make it out. 10758. That must be a 10758. I can't quite tell because the spinner's blocking it. But a nice looking prop, by the way. I bet that thing's gonna work really good. It feels strong too. So I'm excited to see this thing fly. It's come highly recommended. Obviously, I'm gonna be recommending it to you, and I'm trying to see what the motor size is. This is a Horizon Hobby. This is a Horizon Hobby Inc. And that's all you get. No soup for you. Okay, so we will look at it when we get in the manual. All right, without further ado, we're gonna pause, we'll get things picked up, and then we'll come back with the build, and then we'll do the radio setup at the end. All right, guys, so we're back for the build on the Valiant 1.3. So as you can see, when I opened that in the unbox, the lid came off, and that drove me crazy, so I'm immediately going to change things.
Once.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Okay, so I'm using a piece of tape here. This is some pretty robust, high-tech stuff we're gonna be doing here. I'm gonna put a piece of tape right there, okay? Watch this. Watch this. Did I miss my mark? Oh, geez. Check it out. That's pretty amazing. Okay, that'll save you all sorts of grief. That'll be the first mod we do. Also, in case you're wondering about that weird note about setting the soft start, whatever crap they were talking about, and the low voltage cutoff, if you're, if you've read all the newspaper next to the can, you can bring this thing in there. And this will teach you whatever you need to know about the 30 amp Pro Switching Mode BEC brushless ESC version 2. So anyway, not saying you have to, but if you want to, you can program the thing from your transmitter, which is really nice. And I do like when the manufacturers include that. That's actually one thing they do. So that being said, we're gonna get this thing built. It's gonna be super easy. Maybe. What's first? Landing gear?
Oh yeah, landing gear. Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna flip this over. We got a little plane stand. Thanks, Tom, for that. That worked out good so far. We've been using it a lot. This actually goes into the battery tray. That's kind of interesting. Okay, and then I'm assuming we use these big honking screws.
We need 4 screws.
Well, there's 5 here and there's 5 here, so I don't know which one goes where.
Pick a sack.
Then there's 3 here, then there's 5 there. I don't think those are it. It's one of these two. Does the drawing show, or is it just like guesswork?
The C screws.
Oh yeah, these ones? A, B, or C? Is it A, B, or C? Okay. Yeah, C. Okay, 4 screws. Yeah, I don't see anything about identifications of screws. So that makes this a little bit harder on us. These ones are the small screws like this. That I'm fairly certain of. So those are gonna work for the landing gear adapters, the landing assembly adapters that go with the floats. So let's put this back in here. We'll know that those go together. There's also only 3 of these. So if there's only 3 of those, I have to assume that that's what's gonna be used for the tail feathers, because they're gonna give us 1 extra maybe. Okay, so that's fair enough. Then that leaves these This is going into plastic, so I have to assume we're going to want the type that cut into plastic like this with that refined tip on it, as opposed to these are just like a machine screw. So the machine screws are probably going to be for us the upper wing, okay? The upper wing bolts are going to drop into here, and then that's going to be what bites into the nut zerts below. So let's double check that, and just before we do this, that'll hold the landing gear on roughly. Oh yeah, those are nut zerts. Okay, so this is gonna go underneath, and this is gonna go in here.
Okay, hold still.
These are gonna go in here.
Yep.
Okay, those are machine screws, okay? These go with the wing. These go with the underside on the landing gear. If you get it wrong, they'll probably fit, but then you'll have a real heck of a time getting these to start in your wing, okay? I don't even think you have to have this open to do it, but I'm going to open it just for good measure and confusion reasons. My wonderful camera crew has gathered one single Chinese screwdriver, and then we have our Phillips number 2. Looks like the Phillips number 2 fits nicely, so I'll go ahead and use this. The assemblies, almost feels like the Chinese screwdriver would serve me better on this one. Yeah.
Sure.
The Chinese screwdrivers they have just the right size tip, and this is probably like a 1.5. It's kind of like a weird in-between size. So, and we only have about 400 different sizes of Chinese screwdrivers.
No, we have about 400 of those Chinese screwdrivers.
Well, this particular size, we do have quite a few of them. We have a plethora.
We do.
We have a plethora. So you guys are probably wondering, why are you doing a Valiant, Brian? Don't you already have a Valiant? No, I don't. And we have a lot of planes, and the Valiant was just one that got skipped over. Not because I didn't like it, just because I just never got it, period. I've heard it's really, really good. And so now we do. And so we're gonna review it. And that's one of the things that's been happening lately is that as we've been reviewing so many of these planes, I've been reviewing some of these planes that maybe didn't ever make it to my list because I was busy with other planes. Or at the time that I was learning to fly, my appreciation for some of the planes that we're doing now would have been different than it is now. And it's interesting, as you mature into this addiction, and the addiction, you know, really starts to take its toll on your life, you'll find that you enjoy and appreciate models that you maybe didn't when you first started. It's just a warning.
Does that mean I'm not an addict yet?
I don't think you'll ever be, okay? But that's fine. We can't both be addicts, then we would fight over planes, okay?
True.
All right, so those are mounted. It works. That worked good. We're gonna close this up, flip it over. All right, so obviously this has Park Zone. Is this Park Zone?
I didn't, but
It says Horizon Hobby, E-flite. It's E-flite.
Park Zone
But it's
motor
got Park Zone servos.
and a Park Zone motor.
It's okay because Park Zone used to do a lot of the stuff and sometimes they get rebranded. Okay, so are we doing the tail feathers first? Yep. We're supposed to do the tail feathers first, so let's do that first. I'm taking the extra screw and I'm sticking it in the sack.
It's a good place for it.
And then I'm gonna put the sack in the other sack. And then later when I need to find it, it's gonna be stapled. I know, I'm gonna staple the sack to my Valiant manual. And then like when I go searching for manuals, because I do that all the time, you know, just for extra fun, then I'll know where to find it. All right, so this is gonna go on there kind of like first, and then this is gonna go on there kind of like second. So this is gonna wrap in there like so, like that. Perfect fit. Not a bunch of guesswork and lollygagging around. Just stick it in the hole and enjoy. I am a little bit concerned about this one. This looks a little tricky. I remember I had another plane like this. You see that, how that drops down in there? And then you have to kind of do this like strange thing to get everything to line up. Oh, there it goes. Ooh, wow, it's in there. So now we have a screw here, which I forgot on one of my planes once. And I'm still getting mentions about that in my comments, which is awesome. It's like, hey, Brian, you forgot the screw. I'm like, yeah, I made that video like 3 years ago. Pretty sure I already had to fix it. There are 3 screws in this bag, so I'm assuming that these are gonna be the correct screws. They show a total of only 2 screws and then a third small dinky one. So one of the small dinky ones right here is needed for that small one, and then the 2 long ones are gonna go here. So they give you 3, so there's 1 spare. Okay. Do not over tighten screws. I just noticed that in my glancing at the instructions, okay? So I'm gonna stick this in the sack. I'm gonna grab this out of the sack. I'm gonna take one of the small screws here so I don't forget. It's significantly smaller, okay? See, it's about a third the size. Come on, get out of there. It used to be, Horizon was super good about this years ago, where they would label every single sack. Unfortunately, the labels were wrong half the time. So it's kind of like, oh, it's even more confusing when you label it wrong. And so I don't know if they listened to guys like me or they just, you know, figured it out on their own, because not exactly hard to figure that one out. I'm going to say it again, though. Horizon is one of the few brands that will actually back up their radio-controlled equipment. They talk the talk and walk the walk, unlike other manufacturers. Some of them are pretty good about replacing components, but you don't want to have to do that a lot either. Okay, so we're just tightening this down. Do not over-tighten. Like when you hear popping and hissing, it usually probably means you're getting close to over tightening. Okay, still going, still going, still going.
Actually tightening?
It's tightening.
Okay.
See, it's pulling this up as I go. And there we are. We're in the hole. We have full penetration and purchase. I don't want to over tighten it, okay? I'm being careful. I see you looking at me like that.
I am.
So, all right, now this little one is the one that you especially don't want to over tighten, because it's gonna bind the control surface. You just need this to get through, get good penetration, and then have a gap, okay? Because this isn't really holding it together, it's just holding alignment. You see what I'm talking about there, camera crew? See, now this one, you also want to be very supportive of your task at hand. So I'm holding the rudder so I don't break that pinch hinge. It is tape reinforced, but you don't want to find out you pulled too hard on the screwdriver. Now I'm going to go until it's tight, and then I'm going to back it off. See, if you over tighten it, I don't want to break it. You see how hard that is? That's never, you're going to break your servo on the first turn, okay? I'm going to back it off a quarter to half a turn. Look how gorgeous that is. Limited play, works great. I mean, you could hold it up by the rudder. I'm not going to do that. That would be stupid. All right, so that pretty much gets us to the next stage of the game, which is going to be putting the wing on, right? This is slightly easier than a Dynam.
It's the reason I vote.
Yeah. We'll just throw that anywhere, Brian. So we have 2 wing spars. The smaller one, of course, is going to go into the small hole, and the big one goes into the big hole. Not exactly hard to figure out. Okay. You're like, but Brian, there's wires in there. You have to pull those out first. They just do that because it's easy to keep those out of trouble.
Yep.
Keeps them from getting damaged. And then just ram it and get full penetration all the way through, all the way to the bottom. And you'll notice they're different lengths. Okay, that's normal because they were different lengths to begin with. Okay. This is going to make a nice straight wing, and no, you do not need to glue these together. Anybody who tells you to glue these together, don't listen to those people. Okay? Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous wing. It is not flat. How do you tell it's not flat? Put it on a flat surface, it's got dihedral, okay? It's just a very subtle dihedral. So, I had somebody asking me a question today on one of the comments, and it had something to do with, you know, like the largest plane available, and it made me think of the Sig Rascal. And this plane kind of reminds me of the Sig Rascal. It's similar shape and setup. If you guys know what I'm talking about, put it in the comments below. I think SIG may have gone out of business, but they were building a 14-foot, if I remember right, balsa built up kit.
Oh my word.
Yeah, I know.
We do not need one of those.
Well, I mean, we might need one, but they're not available, so don't feel bad. I don't think you can get them anymore because I don't think SIG is still in business.
All right.
Yeah, they were in Montezuma, Iowa, not too far from where we live, actually.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're gonna flip this thing over on its landing gear. You'll notice I did not install the tail wheel. Mine came fully installed. The instructions do outline it. Sometimes on the Horizon instructions, they'll give you a couple extra steps that they found out was just easier to have the manufacturing plant put some things together. I don't know why that is, just one of those things. Okay, so now when you get ready to put this on, you're like, but Brian, there's wires. And I know there's wires. The problem is, which ones are which, right? I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know on this plane, so we're gonna have to test. Okay, so you could follow along and you can tell that one either has an exceptionally long wire or they have the same length wire and one comes out further. I kind of doubt that's the case because if they're the same length wire, they should be equidistant from one another. So you should have this much extra on one of them. That's not the case. Also, good engineering, Horizon. You actually worry about how much extra wire you have? What? That's crazy. The other manufacturers just give you like 7 extra meters and you have to bundle it up in the middle of the fuse. No big deal though. Okay, that being said, enough about me. Let's talk about the plane. I'm gonna use my servo tester. And you're like, but Brian, what the heck is a servo tester? Well, it's this thing. The XBC 100 Smart Checker. We're gonna plug this in right here. Boop. Oh wow, look at that. That's fancy. Press the button, go to the servo test. Boom. Start. Yeah, start. Okay, guys, I have not been critical of this thing, mostly because it's freaking awesome, 99.9% of its function. One thing I don't like about this thing is I don't like the touch keys. They're kind of a pain. There are many times when I've had trouble getting them to respond to my finger. And I don't know if that's because my finger is calloused from using it, or if it's just a touchscreen issue. I've also gotten it wet and had problems as a result. Horizon, if you're listening, which you may actually be, I would recommend, if it's possible, to have a tactile push button. I know that that costs more, so it's probably not going to happen because you're not going to hit a $20 price point or whatever they charge for this. This thing is cheap. Is it 20 or is it 40?
Yeah, it's 40.
Maybe it's 40. Either way, at 40, it's still a good value because you get a servo tester and you get a battery tester that's a smart capable, and you can do all sorts of things. It's very cool. It's probably more impressive than any of those chargers over there. And when I say more impressive, I mean like legit. It's cheap and it does what it does very good. The touchscreen is a little bit annoying. Okay, that being said, now that we've had that conversation, don't hate me, Horizon. Okay, so minus is toward the top. And also the black on black makes it hard to see some of the stuff, okay? Mm-hmm. Oh, look, that's an aileron. Whoops. So you can press the button and it will move. Or you can press and hold it. Oh, dang it. Oh, evidently you can't press and hold it. You can move it like this. You can actually change your, see that? It'll automatically sweep. Are you showing them the control surface?
Yes, they can see both.
So that's pretty cool. And then you can just tap and go to the different positions. So in this case, whoops, I must have tapped it as I unplugged it. Mm-hmm. Then this one is obviously going to be for us a flap. The flap servo, okay? So I could make a reasonable assumption that the shorter cable is the flap servo and the longer cable is the aileron servo, but that's pretty tough because they're not exactly the same length. Camera crew, keep an eye on that, please. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to label it with a marker. A marker.
Right on the thing?
I'm just going to label it. I'm going to use a piece of tape because I'm feeling like that's going to last longer. You're like, Brian, you used a piece of clear tape? Yes, I know. A. And this is on the, I have to flip it, right wing. Woo! A. Right. Okay. Now, the only reason I'm labeling this A right is if I ever do set up crow, I need to know which aileron is which so I can set up the flaperons and so on and so forth.
Are you taping over your tape?
Yeah. Do you have a problem with my tape? I thought my tape solution was pretty good myself. Okay, so this one's going to be this is going to be a flap servo, okay? So flap servo is going to be FR for right side flap. And then from deduction, you could figure out the other two are the left.
Ooh, that was
Yes.
good deduction.
That's right. But the thing is, you can't probably figure out which one's which because the lengths are so similar, it's really kind of hard to know. So I'm just going to test it.
Flap. That's my guess. Oh, I win.
You are so good. Okay. Which one's this? Landing gear?
Lights.
Lights. Okay. Nope. Aileron. Okay. So this one, will you hold that, camera crew? That one is the aileron. So that's going to be the left aileron. So you'll notice I used one piece of tape this time. I'm really refining this
I'm glad
process.
you didn't waste all our tape.
No. Oh, this
Expensive.
This
High
one's
quality.
the aileron, so it's going to be the AL 37. Ooh. You guys may have noticed I've never reviewed an AL 37. Yes, I know.
I wonder why.
I know why.
Me too.
It's too bad. Too bad their loss.
I know.
Okay, so this one is the left flap or the FL. This is the left, right?
Yes. It's the flap.
It's the full. Okay, so there's the full. All right, so now that those are labeled, we normally don't go in such great depth.
Except always.
Oh, yeah, there's that. So now this plane flies on 3S, but I have heard grumblings that it flies on 4S. I don't know that for a fact. I am not going to tell you that you should fly this on 4S until I know that it won't catch on fire and blow up in 50 pieces. Okay? I'm not saying I won't ever try it. I may talk to tech support at Horizon Hobby and ask their opinion. By the way, if you guys didn't know this yet, you can buy from links below. And if you have a coupon code for Horizon Hobby, you can use it. And you can use your RC points. And you can still follow my links. And you can still support the channel. Did you know that?
I knew that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did. You're listening. So there's 6, and then there's a splitter on 6. Let's see what it says in the manual. We're not quite to radio setup, but we're going to flaps are on 6, and ailerons are on 2. Okay, so I have flaps here. Camera crew,
Yeah.
I need your help. Will you hold that tip of the wing
Yeah. Hold on. Let me.
while you
focus.
simultaneously perfectly hold the camera?
The tip of the wing?
No, well, you could hold in the middle, but you're gonna have to hold it low enough.
I know.
I have to hook up the flap right. Okay, yep, that's what that was. Wasn't anything else. Now I have the right there, that is. Okay, yes, yes. This is the L run. And then this one is the error.
Good thing you don't teach phonics.
Okay.
Got it?
Now watch this, guys. Trick of the day. Trick of the day. Right here. Check this out. Wrong. Correct, but not right. Watch this. Watch this. Also wrong. Where are you going with this, Brian? Where are you going? Come on. You're leaving us hanging. No, I'm not. You got to do it 3 times probably. Wow. Look what happened to those fancy dance cables. Look at that, camera crew.
Aww.
Yeah. Now that's going to keep them out of your elevator and rudder wires. Okay? You're also going to notice a little something else here, folks. you're gonna notice that there is probably a bind plug that's down in by your battery tray. And I'm gonna verify that before I put 475 screws in here. I'm gonna actually go one more. I'm gonna go 4 turns. Okay, by the way, if you guys need to store a plane, you got a small place, or you're trying to take this to the flying field and you got a small car, which by the way, this thing is pretty small. You can do this, okay? And look how small that is. You should be able to, you know, like stick this in the passenger seat even with the wing off, okay? It's 4 screws, not the end of the world, but they do take 6.5 years to screw in because there's 4,000 thread count. So there you go, there's 4 turns. That's gonna work gloriously, okay? So then you can just stuff that in there all nicely. Once you get it in the hole, I am going to flip this, even though they're not tightened. I'm gonna put it on a plane stand probably. It'll be easiest to do that. Yeah. Tom, thanks for the plane stand.
It's been super awesome.
It has been. Look, there's a bind plug somewhere in here.
Is there?
Oh man, I didn't trip on that thing yet. Oh. Where the heck is that thing? Oh, there's the bind plug. There's the bind plug shortcut thing right there. Okay, note to self, when giving a shortcut on a bind plug, make it long enough to actually reach.
Wait, where is it?
It's right here in my fingertips.
Yes.
It's a little on the short side, I would say. It's kind of like, yeah. I think I can probably get it though. I think I can maybe possibly get it. Maybe. All right, so now we got to put the screws in. Where are the screws? Did I put them into the sack?
You put them in your sack
No,
already?
they're right there.
Oh, yep.
Okay, right here, guys. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. There's 5 in there. There's 1 extra.
Okay. That would make sense then.
All right, camera crew. There you are. Chinese screwdriver again. We'll try. Then we'll try number 2 Phillips. Looks easy. Lining up perfectly. Hey, you know what else is nice about Horizon?
What?
When you stick a screw in the hole, it lines up most of the time.
Yeah, almost always.
It's not like, you know, but once in a blue moon, I would say once in 5 or 6 planes, you might have an alignment issue. And when I say an alignment issue, I mean, it's minor. You don't have to like go to your grinder and, you know, mechanically alter the machined bolt to fit in the hole. You don't have to do any of that. You just stick it in the hole and tighten it. That's not something we run into with all manufacturers.
It's not. I was gonna say, why did you switch screwdrivers?
I wanted to see if I could fit it in the hole, but it's a little bit too small. So a number 2 screwdriver is a no-go on this model. You're gonna have to get a number 1.5 or a number 1, also known as China screwdrivers. Hey, yes. Horizon, how come you don't send us, you know, our 476th Chinese screwdriver?
That's true.
That would be, you could
Sometimes they send an Allen wrench if you need.
Yeah,
like
they send an Allen wrench, yeah, on some of them, not all of them. Which, again, I don't really understand the some and not all.
Yeah.
You know, Allen wrenches are kind of handy. And to be honest with you, the Allen wrenches, if you get like a 1.5 or a 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter, they're pretty easy sizes. But there are some in-between sizes like 1.3 millimeters. And a lot of people don't have those. So, just saying. Tom, out of his frustration, also sent us those. Thank you, Tom.
And they were also
Tom is
super
probably,
nice.
he's like, I'm never sending that guy another
anything
tool.
ever again.
Because we mention it all the
Just
time.
taking up my flower
This is
vase.
probably like the 50th time we've mentioned it this year.
Yes.
Wow. Whoa.
Cool.
That thing is gorgeous. I mean, totally, phenomenally gorgeous. Did you see how short that took? I mean, we probably blathered at least causing this to take twice as long as it had to.
Yeah.
If you guys were just like chilling, listening to tunes, and maybe drinking an adult beverage or not an adult beverage, you could have done this in half the time, I promise you.
Yeah.
That being said, we need to mark the CG. Let's do that next.
We do.
Where do you mark the CG? What is the CG? The center of gravity. If you're new to the hobby and you don't know what the center of gravity is, you're gonna find out right now. Get ready, it's exciting. The center of gravity is where the plane pivots when in air, okay? So like when it's on the ground, it pivots on the wheels. When it's in the air, it pivots on the center of gravity. We also may wanna hook up these control surfaces. Just saying. I think it would probably make it easier.
Who needs an elevator?
Yeah, pesky elevators. Ian, if you're watching, eat your heart out.
He is not.
Ian, where have you been all these years, Ian? I miss you. Did you even see the ASH-26 fly?
Probably not.
Poor Ian. That guy knew his stuff. He was legit, though. That guy was legit. Elevator, inside hole. Wow. I went to the outside hole, and I needed to go to the inside hole. That will get you in trouble.
Yes. Do not make that mistake.
Nope, only once. All right, so then the flaps are already hooked up. We don't have to mess with those. And the ailerons are already hooked up. Don't have to mess with those. I'm just glancing down to see if they're in the same as prescribed by the manual in case somebody screwed up at the factory, which it doesn't happen often, but it does happen, I'm sure. So the elevator's on the inside hole and the rudder's on the inside hole. That's awesome. Horizon usually doesn't recommend that. This must be a 3D sport plane. Wait.
No.
Sport Park Flyer for intermediate pilots.
Are you when are you going to not be an intermediate pilot
Listen,
anymore?
You know, when you lose the intermediate pilot status, you have arrived.
As defined by...
I don't know, somebody. There's some guy that sits around doing these things. Brian, you're no longer intermediate. We're just gonna need 10% of your profits to protect you. That's exactly the way it'll go. All right, we're looking for the CG marking. Here it is, 65 millimeters plus or minus 3, which is also known as 62 to 68 millimeters. Did I do the math right?
Yes, I think so.
The other day I did the math wrong and people keep correcting me.
We always do the math wrong on camera.
Well, yeah, you guys film yourself for 1,400 videos and you tell me how many times you make a mathematical error. Once a video. I mean, what's wrong with that? All right, I'm gonna get the world's worst calipers. Tom, just saying.
Tom's probably
Don't
long,
send him, Tom.
Tom's
Don't do it.
long gone by now. It's like, those people are
They're
done
dead
with
to
them.
me. They're dead to me. I'm never sending those guys a plane stand again. All right, here we go. Whatever.
It's been super helpful.
I finally took the time. Tom, you'll be proud of me. I marked the top. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yes.
This is just too late now. You are involved.
Now people are going to comment about being off topic.
That's right. Stick to the issues, Brian. I need to figure out how to build this Valiant. I'm halfway through, for God's sake. Jeez. Oh, man, I'm going to have to drink this adult beverage.
You did. You marked them
I marked them.
very nicely.
That was because I got tired of not being able to see them. Those pesky Germans, they make such good tools, and those are actually really nice tools. And they were
Stored them in
expensive.
something other than the flower base, you could probably see them here.
They were super expensive. Huge expensive. 62. All right, 62 it is. So 62 millimeters.
Is it actually 62 now? Did you get it?
62, okay? From the leading edge of the wing, from the leading edge of the wing, and though they still ambiguously marked it in the manual because they drew the line from here, even though this wing tapers ever so slightly. So from now on, Horizon, I know you're listening. Mark it from the wing root or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's not really a big deal. It's not going to be hard. This thing will probably fly with the CG all screwed up. It's going to become a preference thing. Okay, so one dot here. Okay, then we're going to go to, what was that, 68? Mm-hmm. So 68. And by the way, that is one other thing too that's always really nice about Horizon. They almost always provide this stuff. That is not a very big range. What in the heck? Yeah, because it's only 6 millimeters difference. Yeah. So that's your millimeters. It does look like I may have, chopped my hand with the prop. Maybe I should have used black like every other time I do this.
Why did you use red today?
I was just mixing things up, okay? We got to keep things exciting on this channel.
Is that why we do the exact same thing every single time?
I mean, hey, if they're anything like me, and these people probably are since they like this stuff, and they're super big nerds like me, then they probably are like, I like Brian's videos because they're exactly the same every time. I know exactly what to expect. And don't ever change anything! So they're like me, right?
That's true.
So they're like, Brian, I'm going to keep watching these until the day I die. You do 10,000 videos, you could review the same plane 17 times. I'd watch the exact video. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Wow. Wow, that's tight. Why is this one feels like it's further onto the tape than that one?
Because
okay.
you did that one further out.
Oh no! Oh, it's unrecoverable. I'll just draw my blood splatters. The red was not a good choice, folks.
It was not.
It's like, what's that on the bottom of your wing? Did you hit a bird? Okay, so obviously you're not going to test this now because you don't have a battery in there. Okay, the primary means of balancing a plane in the RC world is typically going to be your fuel or your energy source, which would be a battery in this case. And if you guys didn't know this, if you fly with a fuel tank, the fuel tank is almost always on the center of gravity because as you consume fuel, you would then change the center of gravity. So you need to make sure to account for that if you're flying some sort of a gas-powered plane. Okay, so we already have a 3S 2200 over there. I guess we could hypothetically use that. So what we're gonna do at this point, we have the CG marked. We are gonna stick a battery in here, and then as soon as we're done with that, we're gonna look at the radio setup for this beauty. But I wanna make sure the CG is gonna be good.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, now.
So in case you're wondering, that latch will go either way, left or right. 2200 3S Smart Pack, okay, 30C. So this has an IC5, or excuse me, IC3 connector. It's got the extra lead in there. That's for the data line. Of course, it's not going to do anything on this configuration because it's got an IC3 connection. So the ESC is not a smart ESC. No big deal. It doesn't really matter on this application, but just being aware that the telemetry will not provide that information back. I don't even know if this has receiver telemetry on an AR6. What is this, a 636A, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to plug that in, but I'm just going to lay this down kind of next to it, next to the side. Rotate the leads around, kind of be nice to them. If you're nice to your batteries will be nice back to you unless they aren't. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, more camera crew. Mm-hmm. Jeez.
Sorry.
Keep your hands off of me, even more filming. Okay, so just so you know, all the way at the forward position, that worked out great. I'm on the front hole, and it feels like a little bit nose down. That's good. On the back, it would be probably a little bit on the nose heavy side. So I'm just going to adjust that to the back and see how it feels. Oh no, I spread my blood splatters.
Oh, jeez.
I know. That's good. So really, to be honest with you, you could probably fly this battery anywhere in there you want. If you go up to a 3200, it's going to be everything you can do to fit that thing in there. In fact, let's show the people at home real quick how that would look. If you grabbed a 3200 3S like this, and you were to try to fit that in there, you'd be able to get it in, but you're going to have a real hard time getting the connections made. It'll CG out fine though. Okay, so 3200 3S. I'm not sure if we're going to review this. I'll check with Horizon, make sure the 4S is in fact incompatible. You are obviously know what happened because you've seen the flight. We always do the builds and the radio setup after the fact. But just so you guys know, when we recommend a battery set, we check on these things. We don't just throw that out there like, hey, I'm going to fly this on 8S today. And we stopped doing that. All right, guys, so one other thing. If you use a bloody looking mark for your CG and it's spreading, you may want to put some tape over it so it doesn't spread everywhere on your plane. Like I did there, it's always a good idea. All right, guys, next up, radio setup. If you don't know how to set up your radio, this is the place for you. We're gonna use, just so you know, the NX6. It's gonna be amazing. This is just like setting up a DX18 or the old DX9, DX7, DX8. I don't even know if there was a DX7, DX6. The only difference is, of course, this doesn't have safe select, so you don't need the 7th channel, but there's not retracts on here. So you could still do the safe select assignment if they would upgrade this to an AR637TA, let's say, maybe in the near future. By the way, I don't know if they're doing that or not, But some of the planes, as they get upgraded, are moving to the 637 TA, which has telemetry, but not the barometer, so you don't get the vario. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The boop, 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 beep, beep, boop, 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 boop. People love that.
People love that.
People love when R2-D2 flies
I had
with
no
them.
idea that was going to be such a thing.
Well, I love it. I think the vario is awesome.
I think it's kind of interesting.
Myself. And if you knew the difference in cost basis, you'd be like, what are you doing, Horizon? Just put it in the plane, and then you would throw the plane, and then you would order another one.
From the link below.
Exactly. All right, stick around. We'll do the radio setup next. Okay, so we're going to do the radio setup with the NX6. I have a pair of pliers, and you're like, why do you have pliers, Brian? What does that have to do with the radio? Well, first we have to, we're going to take this bind plug that's kind of buried down here. If I can grab it with the needle nose. Ah, dang it, the landing gear have precluded my perfect plan. I'm going to try to get this. I need a screwdriver too, guys. My plan has been foiled. If these were forceps, I could have grabbed it, no problem. But since they're not forceps, I have to use a screwdriver of sorts. So basically what I was gonna do is I was just gonna make sure I have the bind plug pulled up, and I was debating about doing this on camera or not. But these are the types of amazing and wonderful tips and tricks you've come to expect on Brian Phillips RC on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for giving me a wonderful platform. Wow, I thought this was gonna be so much easier. It's just a little bit too short. So anyway, I'm gonna pull it up here. I was gonna pull it and slide it into this little spot where the Velcro is. So once I get it in, I'll show you what I'm talking about, guys. See what I'm talking about? See what I'm talking about, guys?
No. My giant fingers are in the way.
Okay. So that's ready to plug in. Why did we do that? Because I gotta plug in this bind plug here in a minute. Boop. So we'll do that in a minute. So that being said, we can just kind of leave this hanging. And our next step is going to be to set up a new Acro model in the plane. So you want to have your battery ready, in this case 3S2200 30C Smart Pack. So that'll be ready when we're ready. And if you look here with me in the manual, one of the reasons that Horizon planes are the best is because you can, if you get a plug and fly and you want to use like a Futaba radio or, whatever brand you want that's not Spectrum, you can use this to help figure out what your throws are gonna be. I do not follow that. 5-minute timer will take note of that. And then later in the manual, there'll be this, which shows the computerized transmitter setup, okay? So that's gonna tell you kind of how to set it up. And then later in the manual, I don't think they're gonna have anything about Safe Select because Safe Select doesn't exist yet as it pertains to this setup. Ooh, look at that. Did they upgrade Safe Select? The AR636. I may have spoke too soon. Look. I thought that we had to have the AR636B to get the Safe Select. Well, anyway, it talks about it here on page 10 and 11, so that's pretty sweet. Okay, so we'll talk about that. That's awesome. I didn't know I had Safe Select. That's really, really good. All right, why is that good? Because if you want auto leveling, then you'll have that. That's pretty good. Why do they call this an intermediate pilot plane then?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out when we fly it. Maybe it's harder to fly than I think. Okay, so that being said, you're gonna turn on your transmitter. This is the radio setup part that I promised. All right, guys, so go into the function list, go to system setup, disconnect RF, which is gonna turn this off. Then go to model select, scroll all the way down to add new model, create an Acro. That's where you can select between this and the other different types. Okay, so I'm gonna do an Acro and create. Takes a second. Once you create it, then you go to model name. So it says number 11. Okay, so in this case, it's gonna be the Valiant. So we can just type that in, Valiant 1.3 meter. So after, and by the way, you can change the numbers here too, but the number order, I don't know if it rearranges, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna type in Valiant. Okay, so we'll start with a V. You click and it highlights that, then it changes and the cursor goes back to a regular color, and then you can scroll over, highlight, and change. Okay, so we'll come back when we're done typing. Okay, so we got the Valiant 1.3 meter. Definitely, guys, do the size, because what'll happen is you'll eventually get another plane, and maybe I'll have a Valiant that's like a 5 meter someday. That'd be awesome. Okay, then we do have flaps, but we don't have to do any other channel assignments. So we'll walk out of here. You can see the timer is already set to 5 minutes, so let's go in and set throttle cut. I'm gonna use this switch H. Then I'm gonna test it, move the stick up. You can see the monitor shows that the throttle's at 0. Then when I move the stick back, that'd be like live. I put this as my cut setting because I feel like you're more likely to bump into it that way. You could still bump the other way. It's not impervious to having mistakes, but it's a heck of a lot better, okay? So still be careful. And then timer, we'll go to timer. We'll set this to 1 time active. Next. And then we'll set our alarms. So at 1 minute, I want, do I do a tone usually?
Voice.
Voice.
That's better.
And then 10 seconds, we'll do voice to count down. I do tone at 1 minute, I thought. Expiration is, I don't want voice. I want tone and vibrate, and then every minute we want tone. Okay. So then basically when the timer expires, so it's gonna start as soon as I go over 25%, it's gonna start counting, and it's gonna keep counting. When it goes off, then it's gonna say like 1 beep at 1 minute from 5, or shoot, 1 minute from 0, and then it's gonna say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 7. Except it's gonna count from 10 to 0 instead of back and forth like I just did. All right, so that's cool. So we can clear the timer with this cancel button. All right, so now we're gonna go into the flap setup, and that's where you use this computerized transmitter setup. Computerized transmitter setup here, okay? So basically just looking for Acro. Okay, they're recommending a high rate at 100 and a low rate at 70. And then I'm gonna pretend like this is the DX18 because that served me well since I got the NX6. Obviously this NX6 wasn't out. So, okay, so we'll jump into this, click into the function list, scroll down to flaps. Oh, we have to set the wing type. So go back into system setup, disconnect RF, aircraft type. This is 1 aileron, 1 flaps. Why did they not? Oh, they said it right here. I just missed it. It was right there on the manual. And then I'm gonna scroll down here. I'm gonna highlight the plane, and I'm gonna see if there's a better picture to represent this plane. That's probably as good as it's gonna get. Okay, so now we can go in here to flap system. We're gonna set it to, in my case, I like switch B. You can tell that's B because it says B. I wanted to say where it was because it's not labeled right next to the switch. It's labeled back here.
Oh, it is a little bit.
A is over here, B is over here, and that's I. In case you're new to this, okay? So my camera crew was not laughing at you if you didn't know.
Oh, no, I was laughing at you.
Okay.
Totally. Not that.
Thank you. So the perfect strangers get a pass, but your wonderful husband doesn't. That makes sense. That sounds about right. Minus 100, 0, and plus 100. And this is the elevator correction, so whatever speed, which in this case would be 2 seconds, that's the deployment speed. So if you watch on the monitor, okay, here's flap. When you click it, it takes 1 second about to get to halfway, and then it would take another second to go. So if you go from this to that 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, there's your 2 seconds. The elevator also corrects at the same speed. Seems like no big deal until you set up a... And then it's then it's a huge deal. Excuse me, I just kind of COVID, a little bit of cough there. I don't think it is, maybe. All right, so on a higher note, what do we need to do next? So we're pretty much all set. There's no retracts on here. So throttle cuts on. Let's set up expo and dual rates. We're gonna do it Brian Phillips RC style, not the manual style. Okay, so F, I'm gonna set it to 5% on. What do they say for that? They don't even talk about it on this one, do they? Yeah, they don't talk about anything weird for dual rates. They show Looks like the same here. Sometimes they talk about dual rates in Expo, sometimes they don't. So the Expo, in this case, I'm gonna just set it to what I want, which is my standard setting of 5, then about double for 10, that's where we're gonna start. And then even more and lower the rate. So this is gonna be my most deadened control. This will be where we start, and this will be about half again. So this will be the most exciting, this will be the neutral, and this will be like, I need to calm it down to get it to the ground. Once we land upon the maiden flight, we'll adjust so that if we like this setting better, we'll adjust the middle setting to approximately that setting, or maybe a little bit closer to something we thought it should be. And then we'll do double here and we'll do less here. So let's say we get off the ground and it's too dead and we need less expo. We'll go to this and then we'll adjust our middle setting accordingly. Okay, because expo would be reactionary to some environmental impacts. So if it's super windy, you might want to be a little bit less expo. If it's super calm, you might want no expo because it's just rock solid, okay? So that's what I do, and that's on aileron. And then I am going to do the same thing for elevator, assign it to switch F, position 0, which is the top position. That'll be the lowest expo rate. Then we're going to do 10, then we're going to do 20. You'll notice it's a linear change from 5 to 10 to 20, or not linear, it's exponential technically, but the change in states is gonna be about double and about half. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So then at the top setting, I'll drop my rates back to 90. Okay, back to 0. Now I'm gonna go to rudder. I'm gonna switch this to switch F. In position 0, I'm gonna set it to 5. Then I'm gonna set it to 10, then I'm gonna set it to 20. And you're like, but Brian, I don't like it that way. I wanna do what the manual says. Okay, so if you're gonna do it like the manual says, congratulations, I'll show you where you would look. It's really easy to set. So you would set your high rates to 100% for your rates, and then your low rates to 70%. Actually, that's on this page too. Yeah, see, there you go, dual rates. So each of those settings, so instead of doing it the way I did, you would set the expo to nothing. You would just set it to 0 in all 3 settings. And then in this spot, this would be, you know, like the top setting. So you could do it on a 2-position switch, and you could have, you know, position 0 could be 100 and position 2 could be 70. And then you would be set per the manual. I just have found that this is a nice generic setup that works on virtually any plane, with the exception of the most pitch sensitive planes. Like for instance, the F4U Corsair 1700 millimeter that we just did the other day, and I have my expo set to 45. So that can be symptomatic of having the control arm in the wrong hole. It can also be symptomatic of having the CG wrong. I checked, I felt like both of those were set okay. We could probably back off our control horn setting and then lose that expo setting. But what happens is if you use a high expo setting over 50, you can complicate the way the ES3X works and or safe select. Just be aware of that. I don't think there's been many planes that I've gone over 50% on expo, except for maybe the F14. I have an F14, a Hobby King, and that thing is just a firecracker. And we had all sorts of complicated setup in it. And I did not have stabilization on that plane because I think I was using like a 9-channel receiver. So at the time it was super expensive to get a 9-channel receiver with stabilization. So long story short, I think I had like 70% expo on one of the axes, and that really did make it fly good. It flew way better than it should have. Now that being said, the reason you would use a lot of expo as opposed to rates is that when you pull that stick all the way back, unless I'm in my most deadened state, then I'm gonna have full deflection on that control surface. As much as it can tolerate, it's gonna do it, okay? Then when I let go and I go the other direction, it's gonna be the maximum throw the other way. But in the middle where you're generally flying, it's gonna make it calm and responsive. It's not gonna be overly touchy. Okay, so you get the best of both worlds. You get that like, there's a tree, pull back. And then, you know, generally you crash into the tree anyway, but you feel better going, you know, like you might have gotten away from the tree. But the whole idea is each of the primary control surfaces are going to respond with their maximum output. So for instance, when you're doing really slow flight, you want that maximum control surface deflection because you're not going to have much air going over the control surfaces. So you want to be able to still impact change, and the expo lets you fly comfortably at speed too. Did that make any sense? I hope so. When people ask questions about Expo and they want me to type that out, I'm like, oh, good Lord.
It's
going to be like a 7-paragraph answer.
Yeah.
And that's just one aspect of Expo. If you've never used Expo, what are you waiting for? It's like the difference between a plane that flies awesome and a plane that flies like really it's not very fun. So, and it's a technology that, you know, the old timers might come in and say like, oh, whippersnappers, we didn't have no Expo when I was a kid. And it's like, would you ride a donkey to work? And yes, they probably did. But still, listen, if you drove a donkey to work, use Expo, for God's sake, it's available now. All right.
Do you have an Expo setting?
Nope. It's negative. And yes, you can run negative Expo.
But why would you want to do that?
Let me show you what it looks like. The curve is, yes, exactly. Okay, so you see this Expo is 5, so this is my lowest setting. If you want that thing to be crazy, you're gonna have more output at the middle of the stick. So let me give you an example of when Expo at a negative would be good. So suppose you fly helicopters and the helicopters are like big enough to like cut your head off, okay? And there's people that are crazy like this, believe me, that watch this channel. I know who's gonna make comments. So anyway, when you make comments, I won't be surprised. So you're flying this helicopter and you've got it turned on its end like this, which is just crazy. It defies all physics and logic and reason. I don't know why you want to do that, but I know people that do this. And then they do this and I'm like, you guys are crazy. And then they're like, ooh, let's do this. And then I'm like over here cringing behind a 6x6 post of the pavilion to save my life. That's why you would want that. Because then you can be like, okay, I'm moving it. You see how much I'm moving my thumb? Yeah, that's what you want to do that. Seriously. Yeah, those guys are crazy. Yeah. You think I'm crazy?
Yes. I mean.
Seriously, I'm flying a coffee cup, okay? If I run into myself with a coffee cup, everybody lives. If you run into yourself with a 6-foot helicopter blade, everybody dies. You're welcome, Horizon. I know you sell helicopters too. I should link to one of those helicopters.
We should, just for fun.
See how many we sell after that. All right, so we're done with the Expo and dual rates. That was kind of a tangent. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and bind the plane. I don't like binding planes upside down, but as a means to an end, you kind of have to do it a little bit. Luckily, the newer technology, it knows that you're upside down. On the old technology, like for instance, the Apprentice 1.5, the Apprentice STS 1.5, you have a power switch. So you just turn the power switch off. And then when you flip it upright, you turn it on and that initiates safe and teaches it the home position. It's kind of scary if you do that wrong. Then you turn safe on and it's like flying along just perfectly. It's never happened to me except for that one time. Okay, got the bind plug here. Transmitter off. You can also go into the bind menu, okay? That is an option, it is a thing, okay? Takes forever to turn off on an NX, okay? That's partially because they want to give you the opportunity to turn it back on, okay? All right, bind button's up here, that's what we're gonna be pressing. So if you go a couple pages later, it's gonna talk about this. I can verbally tell you this. If you want AS3X only, you plug this in and you bind as you would with any other plane. So you plug it in, this thing into the plug, then you plug in your battery and you just let it chill. Then you come over here and you press and hold this, turn it on, and it'll bind as usual. AS3X only, you're gonna get one dance from the control surfaces. Done. That means AS3X is active. Safe is a no-go. If, on the other hand, you wanna take advantage of the safe, which is like an extra 10 seconds of effort, you're gonna do it like this. I'm gonna show you how to do this, okay? The steps go like this. We're gonna plug this thing in right here. This is gonna short ground to signal, okay? You don't need to worry about it because it's already been built. I don't know which way this plugs it is keyed, okay? So if I get this wrong, and you're just gonna have to take my word for it, you won't be able to see it. Okay, we could have done this with the wing off and maybe we should have done that. Okay, so yeah, I got lucky. Okay, so you're gonna plug that in. Now pay special attention. I am going to unplug that after I plug in the battery before I do this stuff, okay? So I'm gonna plug this in like this. Okay, it's plugged in. Now I'm gonna pull the bind plug out. You'll notice there's a big flashy light going on. You see the flashy light right there? You see it flashing? Flash, 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 flash. Now you just kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay.
No, I want to flip the plane over. I'm sorry. I want the plane on its feet. And I want it in a position where it's gonna be safe in case all hell breaks loose and it takes off, which has never happened in my whole life. Throttle cuts on, expo's in the conventional setting, flaps are back, gear, if I had them, would be in the correct position. Now I'm gonna press and hold this. I'm gonna turn this on by pressing the button. You have to press and hold it for a second. It's coming on, binding. Okay, so its bind is complete. Now look for 2 dances. Safe select. Throttle cuts on, tested. That's the first thing you do. Throttle cuts on and tested. I had somebody the other day that was saying, hey, I'm really worried about you cutting your hands off because I don't take the props off. Okay, I'm not gonna cut my hands off, but I could get cut someday, and do it at your own risk because you could get cut by these things. Just be careful. It's like one of the top things that people get hurt doing this. Okay, when I flip this over, you'll notice that the ailerons are like, what are you doing, ailerons? Boy, those ailerons got a mind of their own. That's safe. It's trying to find the quickest path to level. You also notice the rudder is kicked off to the side. We probably just need to center that mechanically. No big deal. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So, safe is on. That's how you can tell. Also, you can tell from the double dance upon startup. I have a good habit, and I'm going to show you the good habit now. Throttle cuts on. I am going to unplug the power. Unplugged. I'm going to power down my transmitter. The first time I bind one of these things, I always do this. It's a creature of habit thing, okay? Now I'm going to go through the normal startup procedure. I'm going to turn on my transmitter. This time I'm not going to bind it because it's already bound, okay? Then I'm going to plug in my transmitter, my receiver. And I'm just going to plop this in here loose. It's already bound. It's not going to initiate until it's level. Watch this. Boom. 2 dances. There's 2. Okay, so everything's working. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to test control surfaces. Then we're going to move through a series of different tests. Aileron roll left, aileron roll right, elevator up, elevator down, rudder left, rudder right. We need to mechanically adjust that big time. Okay? So we also need to test throttle before we put our hand here. We're out of a compromised position. Now throttle is safe. Flaps, flaps. Looking for the elevator correction. Can definitely see it. Okay, as you can imagine, safe is still on. Let's rectify that. Okay, camera crew, come on over. Let's look at the manual. So according to the manual, you have to hold the sticks down and in, whoop, like that. And then you have to actuate the control 5 times. 5 times, like $5 foot long, okay? It's probably trademarked. Whoops. It's all right. So anyway, if you want to support Subway, we will make $0 and 0 cents off of it. But it does sound delicious, a meatball sub. That would be good right now.
Seriously.
Sorry. Okay, throttle cuts on. Be aware, this is by your elbow, just in case something would go horribly wrong.
Yep.
It'd be the first time.
Yep.
So let's figure out what we have with switch D. Nothing. Let's figure out what we have with switch A. Oh, we have something. And since I have no retracts, I'm going to use this. Now, if you're doing this with retracts, guys, listen carefully. If you're doing this with retracts, first of all, you're watching the wrong video to copy. I have plenty of them. We just did the P39. You can watch that. It has retract, flaps, and safe select. Watch it. It may be a little bit easier. Just do the radio setup part. Secondly, if you're doing this with retracts and you want to use this switch, for instance, for safe select on off, you have to make an assignment so that this switch is tied to auxiliary 2. That's tied to auxiliary 1 or gear. Flaps are currently tied to auxiliary 1. I'm sorry, gear is gear. Auxiliary 1 is currently flaps. There is one little teeny glitch in the NX6 that I know of right now. And well, there's been 2 or 3 that we ran into. The third was just super duper minor. And it was when I selected a model, it came up to a blank screen. So I just turned it off, turned it back on. It was a nothing issue. The second issue was, if you go into flaps, this one's pretty serious if you run into it, and you try to reassign flaps to auxiliary 1 from flaps, you won't be able to get back to flaps. You'll have to recreate the model. Super annoying, but they'll fix it, so no big deal. By the way, this thing has Wi-Fi on it, so when they do release a firmware update, it's like the easiest thing ever, and it'll take like 10 seconds so to find it, and then your Wi-Fi will limit how fast that is if you have Viasat.
So for us, it'll take
3.5 minutes. It doesn't take that long. It took like 3.5 minutes. But if you were in town and you had fast internet, it'd take like 10 seconds.
Yep.
If you're really fast at clicking. Okay, so now we're gonna do this. You ready? Down and in. 1. Oh, dang it. Okay, I'm gonna undo the sticks because I bumped my flaps and I don't want to confuse the receiver. Down and in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so evidently the 12. Okay, so I did 12 times. Sometimes you're not in the right position to get to the start, so whatever. So safe is on, safe is off. Let's check. Safe is off, clearly. Safe is on, clearly. Safe is off, clearly. Okay? I want safe off in this condition, so I don't even need to switch the channel. But if I was gonna switch the channel, I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna click, go to servo setup, click travel, scroll over to reverse. Suppose I wanted this to be safe on, which I don't, I want this safe off. Then I would click here, and then that would be opposite. So then the stick down would give me this. Safe off, okay? So like I said, I'm gonna switch that back because that's the way I want it. The only reason I show you that is because if you have a 3-position switch, the top of the channel and the bottom of the channel are gonna be what impacts change. So the middle step is gonna be whatever the top is, and the bottom step is gonna be whatever the bottom is. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, test it, know it, know it. Don't ask me what it is, because you said it, okay? That being said, if you don't know how to follow the instructions in this book, watch my video. I've done it like 100 times on this channel. When I say 100, more like 40. But even still, it's super easy process, really easy. When it first happened, when we first came out, we were doing like the Spitfire 1.2, which is now discontinued, very unfortunately. Lots of people are having problems because it's just a little bit weird. They say 5 times, but they actually mean 5 strokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I just did it twice.
Right.
You see how I counted to 4?
5 complete
5 complete cycles. So if you're on a 3-position switch, I think people were getting confused. Also, they may have switched the stick position at some point during this process.
Yeah, I kind of think it used to be different, but.
Well, and then they had the Aero Commander UMX, and they had printed in the manual that it had safe, but it didn't. And that was a big letdown for some people. Not me. I forgave them, but still.
Not everybody did, apparently.
There was a lot of people pissed, I'm sure. All 7 of them. That being said, the Aero Commander was a sweet UMX plane. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. If you can, we have links to it. Okay, you see this, how it's not centered? Notice I'm not in safe, or this would be like, we're gonna make this so it's centered. How do you do that, Brian? This is so complicated.
You take the gas tube off.
You take the gas tube off.
And you twist it out.
See this? Yep. See, even the camera crew knows. The camera crew listens. She is very privy to these concepts, these deep.
Even though I can't fly a plane. I could tell you how to fly,
and
how
please,
to do it.
And please, guys.
Don't ask. I'm not going to do it.
She's not going to do it. She doesn't want to.
I can't.
She says she can't. She could. She doesn't want to. There's a difference. If she wanted to, she'd be doing it. See, that's the thing, guys. It's like anything else in life. If you want to do it, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way to do it, and you're going to do it.
I don't want to.
She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't have any interest. So stop hating on me for taking the radio and never letting her fly.
I'm good over here on this side of things.
Yeah, she's good at filming. She likes doing that. It's like her favorite thing in life. Oh, it's got to be on the inside. You think one more?
Oh,
Yeah,
don't you think?
maybe. You're right. Maybe one more. Did I go the right way? Yeah, I think I did.
So.
No, the camera crew, we didn't even know she was good at filming when we started this channel.
That's better.
I don't know. You might have been righter than I realized. One more even. Oh crap, I went the wrong way. Dang it, sorry folks. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. You know, I never did like that catchphrase because being that I was dyslexic as a kid. And it's like right from which side? Which end are you looking at? Right is a relative term. Left is a relative term. You could be looking at the bolt from the bolt side or from the end side. I always thought that was the stupidest concept.
No, that's just your predisposition to be obstinate.
The elevator is really close.
Yeah.
I would say it's down just a hair though.
Think so?
Yes. I think it's down just, this one's only gonna be a couple of turns, if that.
Yeah.
This one's like really close, so we could probably just tolerate it. But I'm obstinate, evidently.
Evidently.
Evidently. Whatever. That's why you love me. tolerate me.
No, it's your cable management skills that did it.
Whatever. Cable management. Now I know you're just screwing with me. All right, we're gonna go another one turn. One turn. 1/2 one. All right. Some people would call this beating a dead horse, and I would say that's a crime. Look how straight and narrow that is. Beautiful. I almost feel like I didn't do enough. What do you think?
No, I think it's good.
You really do?
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably good, but it's maybe not perfect, but that's good enough. It's good enough for what we're doing. Now the ailerons. Do the ailerons look good? Ailerons. Oh, disgusting. This aileron needs to be adjusted. Show the people at home.
It does. No.
Show them how disgusting this is.
That's horrible.
That is disgusting. We're fixing it now. I've had enough of it. Okay, so it's the same exact process. If you guys want to really make your planes fly weird, adjust them both way down so it'll be like flaperons.
That would be weird.
It'd be really weird. It'd be like so weird. Okay, here we go. I did 2 against my better judgment. Let's see if I got it. Oh, yes. You know what it is? I think there's just a little bit of a wiggle in that. I need more.
I don't know. No,
I need
agree.
more. I need more. Like probably one more.
Yeah, at least.
So guys, if you don't have an eye for detail, then this hobby will be a challenge for you because the devil is in the freaking details. It is. If you don't want to spend the time to do these details, it's okay. You don't have to. You can just fix your plane after it's crashed. That's kind of the way it'll go though.
Yeah.
If you want your plane to fly good, you got to spend the time to adjust these things. It's not hard. It doesn't take that long. It's a lot worse filming it than it is doing it. If I was doing this, like, and the kids were up here being rowdy and obnoxious, then I would just be like, hey, kids, stop it. I'm trying to center my control horns. Can't you tell? Isn't that about how that would go?
Yeah, something like that.
But it's okay. All right, there it is, guys. That thing is ready to fly. It's ready to fly, easy as that. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. That thing looks gorgeous. Why did I think this thing didn't have safe? Because of the AR-636A.
Well, and it only says AS3X on the wing.
I know. They must.
Usually it has a safe logo on it if it has it.
True, true.
And it doesn't say it on the box.
Deception, and mine has blood splatters on it. Disgusting.
I do like the stripes on the bottom.
I love the way this plane looks. It's gorgeous. It's very light. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. It's got good power. That's on 3S too.
Yeah.
If this thing does run on 4S, which it's not impossible it does, and I just don't know it yet, I'll check into it. Obviously, that's really all you got there, guys. This plane's gonna be gorgeous. I can't wait to fly it for you. I hope I can do some wonderful cornholes for you. We'll see how that goes. It's always up for discussion. But I like the way it looks. It's gonna fly great. I can already tell these Horizon planes, it's kind of hard to go wrong with them. In this 1.3 meter size class is a great size class. A high wing is a great place to start, but this is supposedly for intermediate. So I guess I'm gonna have to fly it before I recommend it for a new pilot. And by the way, if you guys are lusting after my NX6, you can get your very own too. We'll link to it in the description below. But if you're looking at an NX6, why not an NX8? And if an NX8, why not an NX10? And if an NX10, why not an IX12? And if an IX12, why not an IX20? Because you don't have unlimited money? Oh, dang it. Well, if you're gonna buy one, definitely buy it from the links below. That being said, if you guys do wanna support our channel, you're like, but Brian, I wanna buy the 1450 millimeter FMS P51, and you don't have a link for it down below. Yes, we do. All you gotta do is just follow the master link to Horizon Hobby. It should be kind of up at the top. And yes, we do, at the very top, show whatever plane that we're doing an unbox for. And then as we do subsequent second thoughts videos or, you know, like flying off of floats or whatever it happens to be, then we will have like a big long list at the bottom. Scroll through. If you find what you want, great, click on it. And when you buy it, you can use your coupon code, you can use your RC points, whatever it is. And it's not just Horizon, but Horizon is one of the vendors that we do marketing for. And then these guys here, like Dynam, if you want to have a less easy time, you can buy those. And then of course we have some from China over here, like the Boeing 737 MAX 9, which is gorgeous. We don't really have links per se for that, but the thing is, that is a pretty cool plane, just a huge project plane. So that being said, this is what I would qualify as not being a project plane.
Definitely.
This is what I would qualify as being a project plane. And a project plane is code word for a humongous pain in the butt to build. So like, not project plane, it will fly good, it will be good. Project plane, Dynam, okay? Beautiful plane still, awesome looking. If you want to spend a lot of time to make that thing fly really good, I'm sure you could. That being said, this thing will fly very good, and you really kind of got to almost screw up to not get it right. Correct? Yep. Is that a pretty good synopsis? So yeah, without further ado, buy the stuff from the links. Thanks for watching, guys. You know we put on a long video for you, so you can just put it on replay. You just play it like 4 or 5 times a day. But for those of you who want a shorter video, there's a new invention. And it looks like 2 little arrows. You can even skip forward. You can skip whole sections of video. If you don't want to see us build it, just skip right to the radio setup. That's what a lot of people do, because they're like, hey, I got this new plane, I got this new radio, I want to take advantage of all these cool features like stabilization. By the way, you'll notice the stabilization's working. It wasn't working before because I gave it over 25% of throttle, which activates the AS3X, the artificial stabilization 3-axis. Okay, that's what AS3X stands for, and that is the basis for safe sensor-aided flight envelope, which helps to auto level the plane. Safe Select is a light version of Full Safe. Full Safe would have a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, which is a lot like this. We just take out the intermediate step, which I always thought intermediate was a stupid step anyway. Safe Select gives you the best of both worlds, and it takes less channels to control. That's why it's good, because you actually lose an additional channel when you go for a panic button. If you want a panic button, you can program that panic button that's really hard to get to, by the way. You can program that to turn on Safe Select. So they're like, oh, I'm panicking, whoop, it's gonna level the plane. Same thing a panic button does, except on a panic button on Full Safe, you press that button and it's not gonna stop panicking for 3 seconds. So then you panic about the wall you're about to crash into, and then you have to control it. And you're like, no, no, turn left, turn left, turn left. And then about 3 seconds later, it turns left. So the panic button is really a panic button. That being said, Safe Select, no panic involved. And you can still control it, but you have limited bank angles. So just keep that in mind. If you fly with Safe, you need a bigger area. And if you're flying with Safe and you legitimately need Safe, you probably want to be in a bigger area anyway, because you're more prone to hit things. I mean, just like that's just the nature of the beast, because you're still learning. All right, enough about this plane. We hope you loved it. Come back for more.